Welcome to another episode of Strange Occurrences. I am your hostess, the Gothic Rose, and I am here to talk about the weird, the macabre, the urban legends, the spooky, the creepy, the paranormal, the cryptids, the aliens, the UFOs, the true crime stories, the conspiracy theories, and everything else weird in the world that I can find and bring to you. You can find me on TikTok as the Gothic Rose and find my live TikToks every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which I also record for Spotify and YouTube so you can always catch up. So if you did miss last week's live dive on TikTok, I was looking up what I thought was a He-Man Mandela effect, but that didn't exist. So I found out a little bit of information about He-Man, but what caught my eye on this TikTok live dive was that the Flintstones had a Mandela effect. Sometimes it's spelled with one T, sometimes it's spelled with two T's. So if you didn't catch that episode, go ahead and backtrack on YouTube and Spotify. But what I wanted to talk about was the theory now about the Flintstones and the Jetsons coexisting in space and time. The theory that the Flintstones live on a post-apocalyptic Earth and managed to survive, and the Jetsons were part of the human race that escaped and live above the Earth. Now, in 1987, Hanna-Barbera came out with a cartoon, an animated show, The Jetsons Meet the Flintstones. And I clearly remember this. I remember recording it off of VHS and my sister and I watching it quite a bit. And she's 4 years younger than me. Just so you know, I absolutely loved getting to watch the younger stuff with my sister. But I absolutely remember this movie. And what happened is the basis of it is Elroy Jetson makes a time machine, and it's supposed to send them further into the future, but they end up in the past with the Flintstone family. But the theory is it didn't work, the time machine. It did not work as intended. He did not insert the crystals like Napoleon Dynamite. And he teleported them down to the surface below on Earth that they did not know existed. So I love this theory. It's dark, it's creepy, and it just kind of hits all the right buttons with me because, I was saying that I used to love all the cartoons when I was a kid. I love this theory because it's dark and creepy. And, the Flintstones was originally not for children. It was an animated version of The Honeymooners, which was definitely not for children, although I watched it with my grandmother all the time when I was a kid. But it was meant for grown-ups. And, Gen Jones and Gen Z came along and we started watching everything. But we always thought that maybe they were survivors of something, some kind of apocalypse, because they had garbage disposals and vacuums and things that you wouldn't think cavemen would have. I mean, yeah, Fred Flintstone had a job, Barney Rubble had a job, they worked at the quarry, the whole thing. But to me, it always made sense. Now, I've heard people make videos about this on TikTok and say, oh, people get so mad at me when I say these things, but no, I'm not mad here. I think it was a pretty cool theory. I love it. So the article that I found here is talking about how the Flintstones and the Jetsons are connected. This is the website throwbacks.com. So the article goes on to say, here's why the Flintstones and the Jetsons are in the same post-apocalyptic future. So it starts with, we all grew up watching the Flintstones and the Jetsons. We liked the contrast between the two because one block of time, you could go from prehistoric bedrock to space age orbit city. They were both made by Hanna-Barbera Productions, and while you may not really think that they're connected, there are a lot of people who think it's all the same universe. Not only that, but they believe that the Flintstones are actually in a post-apocalyptic future right there with the Jetsons. Here's the thing. They're obviously just old cartoons, and people are looking for things that don't necessarily mean anything, but when you start looking into facts, it all connects. And it really does, because they lived above Earth, and we always heard about, future cities floating above Earth, and who would stay on Earth, and what resources would you have? You would have what the cavemen have. So Elroy makes this time machine. It did not work as a time machine to send them into the future. It sent them into the past, but the theory is that they transported, like an elevator, down to Earth below. So they, I guess, figured out that the world was completely destroyed beneath them, but it wasn't. So, and don't forget, Bedrock had a population of 2,500 people. So the question is, what if Bedrock managed to survive this apocalypse that wiped out most of the world, and they managed to hold on to a few things that helped them survive and enjoy their lives? So, and then it says, what if the futuristic city above sent them down some things every once in a while to help them out? So over time, scientific advances would help them out by cloning old dinosaurs, but making them more intelligent than useful. It does say they are the modern Stone Age family, and that makes a lot of sense. That's why we all thought that. We were like, yeah, they really are modern. They have cars, and they have, like I said, vacuums and TVs. Like, they were literally watching baseball games and doing, regular people things. They were just sitting on stone furniture. Their TV was made of stone. So it's really interesting because also the Flintstones celebrated Christmas. Now, Christmas specials were big. Bugs Bunny had Christmas specials. Charlie Brown had Christmas specials. They were all big, with holidays. It drew in kid viewers, all of that. But really, if they lived in their own caveman time, their prehistoric time, Christmas would not exist. And, they make Beatles references. They had Anne Margrock on, they had like people who were part of society in the 60s, famous people, made their way onto the Flintstones. And then don't forget the Great Gazoo. So the Great Gazoo was the futuristic alien that came down to basically help them with everything they need, And it says just because Gazoo thinks he's in the future doesn't mean he's right. Maybe he came so far into the future that even the Jetsons robot maid would seem like Stone Age to them. But Gazoo appears also in Duck Dodgers and the 24th and a half century. So depending on, Gazoo, how long he lives, if he's immortal, all of that, you've got these characters coming in to give us a little bit of insight into the fact that this could absolutely be a post-apocalyptic Earth. So I think it's very interesting because this is something I can absolutely subscribe to. Now, I'm just going to check something out while I'm here with you guys, because I think it was maybe 2015 or 2016 that someone discovered the possible birthday of George Jetson. And he was supposedly born in the year 2022. So that would have been 2 years ago. So if George Jetson was an actual real person, he would be about 2 years old now. Um, his actual date of birth is said to be July 31st, 2022. And this date was deduced by fans based on the show's timeline, which is set 100 years in the future from its original air date in 1962. So that's really like incredibly fascinating because these creators envisioned the future, or did they time travel and show us the future via animated series? Did they show us a post-apocalyptic Earth, telling us that some of us might be living on Earth with very primitive tools like Naked and Afraid? Or are we going to be living in orbit cities, in high-rise buildings, hundreds of miles above the Earth, where we're actually watching Earth rotate, like living in the International Space Station? And I hope that those astronauts do get home soon, just on a side note of that. So let's check out if they have a birthday for Fred Flintstone. Let's see. Fred Flintstone birthday. So it's not giving me a date. Let's see. Oh, his birthday is celebrated on February 2nd. Oh, he's an Aquarius like me. That's pretty cool. So Fred's birthday party aired on April 5th, 1963. But his birthday is February 2nd. That's interesting. And George Jetson, July 31st. So that makes him, what is George Jetson's sign? That's so funny that I'm actually looking this up. But this is what you do on and George Jetson, July 31st, is a Leo. And that actually is really cool because those are sun signs that are opposite each other on the chart. Aquarius and Leo, they're 6 months apart, half a year. I wonder if that has anything to do with it, if that is another clue that, they have like opposite but blending sun signs, and that their birthdays are about 6 months apart. It's very, very interesting to me, all of these little nuances of, just what they tell us in animated series, in cartoons. Are they really giving us messages, or are these just characters that they made up and placed them in a prehistoric setting just to be interesting? I mean, we know that it was supposed to be like the Honeymooners. So why didn't they make an animated Honeymooners? Well, probably because they didn't have the rights to those characters. But you basically have Fred and Wilma as Alice and Ralph Cramden, and you have Barney and Betty Rubble as Trixie and Ed Norton, played by Art Carney, who is from my hometown of Mount Vernon. And Jackie Gleason owned a horse farm up here, the horse farm that housed Secretariat, and it is now a working farm, but at least it's in good condition. So it's very interesting how all of these things do tie together, at least in my own life. But I want to know what you guys think about this theory of the Jetsons and the Flintstones coexisting in space and time on a post-apocalyptic Earth. Is this true? Is Hanna-Barbera trying to tell us something? Were they trying to tell us something back in the 60s? There are so many other cartoons like The Simpsons with time travel. We'll get into that. Same thing with Back to the Future. All sorts of clues in there. But are there lots of clues in these episodes of the Flintstones and the Jetsons? Not just the Jetsons meet the Flintstones in 1987, but the 1960s series that was on and is still playing for 50, 60 years. So let me know what you guys think about these theories of the Jetsons and the Flintstones. And if you did like this video, go ahead, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, hit the bell, follow along, all the great stuff. I am the Gothic Rose, and I will catch you on the next episode. Love, peace, and hair grease.